husk or a smasher with multiple darts, it's just going to be a flat multiplier of the single dart damage. So you can do insane amounts of damage against a lot of different husks with these wall darts. So it does have a long reload time, but it is physical locked, and it has some high durability. So it does shoot through certain builds, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about with that. But it doesn't contribute to the CC counter, which is really, really nice. It also crafts 7 planks, 2 twine, and 2 mechanical parts to craft. In the video, we're going to notice that wall darts do an exceptional amount of damage to the targets they hit, but they do have that slow reload time and don't hit too many husks because there's only 6 darts and they don't pierce. That you're going to have leaks through if it's just only wall darts, but they are one of the best single target traps. So one of the things that I mentioned was that wall darts could shoot through things. So what exactly do I mean by that? So we're going to go through everything that a wall dart can shoot through, and yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. So one thing to note is if you place a wall in front of a wall dart, it's not going to activate, right? But it does have that 3 tile activation range. So if I'm standing 1, 2, 3, if I'm standing right here, the wall dart will go off and hit him. But let's go over everything it can shoot over, shoot through, and stuff like that. So, because this is really important about the trap. You can combo a lot of things with it and get a lot of good use out of it. So one, it's just if you have nothing in front of it, it can shoot. If you have a low wall, it can shoot through it. If you have a window like this, it can shoot through it. Now granted, the wall darts can only go through this window right here. So pretty much the husk has to be standing right here, but that's not usually a problem if there's smashers and stuff like that are going through there, or husky husks and stuff like that. It's usually the midgets that are going to activate it and not get hit by it. We're going to have a double windowed wall. So you're only, if you can look at it, if you're standing right here, you can only see that dart and that dart. So the chances of hitting them when they activate it, you have to make sure they get hit by one of those darts. So it's a little bit less reliable. And you'll see that the more it's covered up, the less reliable it's going to get. Until we get to like these ramps and stuff like that. For this, it can shoot right through it. It's a little bit less reliable than the other ones, but you can also shoot through a cone like this. And you can also shoot perfectly through a ramp like this. So if you're on an RTD and you have the walls surrounding your data and you have an inverted ramp, you can place a wall dart right here, and anything that's going to come beat on this ramp, it's going to get hit by those wall darts. So it's really important in that case. And you can add a lot of extra block off and things like that, and walls with windows and traps on these that combo really nicely. So you can get a lot of extra layering and a lot of extra damage out of it. For example, one combo, and we'll go over this later with the wall dynamos as well. You can take a wall dynamo and you can place it right here, and stuff like that. And on this right here as well. And this is a deadly combo. So you're going to get the AoE out of the wall dynamo and the wall dart. We can also put a wall light right here. So if you want to stun something and keep it stunned, you can have a wall dart damaging it while they're stunned right here. So that's really good for smashers later on in tunnels and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all the stuff that it can shoot through. The next trap we're going over is a wall dynamo. So this is a high burst damage AoE in a single tile trap, and this is one of the meta traps as well. This and a wall dart and a wall dynamo combo is very, very deadly. So this is going to have like a slow reload time, but it's really going to depend on if you put reload perks on it. It's going to have a high durability. It's nature or energy, so it's going to handle elemental husks pretty well if you roll it energy, and it's going to handle water husks really well if it's nature. It can be placed on different wall shapes, and we'll get to that in a little bit because that's actually super important. And it does contribute to the CC counter, so it does have a stun that it can apply, and that's impact based. But it does cost 8 nuts and bolts, 3 mechanical parts, and 1 battery. With a couple reloads on this is pretty good in a tunnel by itself, but it's not really that great. You'll see that it does kill all those husks that are right next to it, but it does have that long reload time, so husks are going to slip through. One of the unique things about wall dynamos is they can be placed on a variety of different walls. So I mentioned that you can combo this a lot with a bunch of different traps, and you can see why. You can place it on a low wall like this, so if you're ever making that edit, it's just going to be these 2 rows of squares at the top taken out. You can put it on a half wall like this, a wall dynamo, a wall, or not a full wall, a windowed wall, 2 windowed walls. So you can do cool things like putting wall darts behind this. Even something like a ceiling electric field can technically go off through this window. So you can combo a lot of things and put them on a wide variety of different walls. And you'll see these come into play a lot. For example, in endurance builds where I have like the wall dart, wall dynamo combo, or like if I need more block off in an area, you'll use one of these different walls, stuff like that. The wall launcher is the crowd control trap. The whole goal of a wall launcher is, you guessed it, it's going to launch a husk, right? And that reload is going to depend on like the perks you put on it, so whether it's going to have a fast or a slow reload, but it's going to have high durability and it's going to launch multiple husks. The distance that the husks are sent is going to be dependent on knockback perks, but I'll show you guys a little guide on that in a little bit. We can easily stagger smashers with these. They're not going to be the best for staggering smashers, but if you don't know what I mean by staggering smashers, we can kind of push a smasher about half a tile and 2 steps over. If we do stun it. It also does contribute to the crowd control counter, and it costs 6 planks, 4 rough ore, and 2 mineral powder. As y'all see in the video, the husks are getting pushed back with this wall launcher in the direction it's facing, and this can allow you to push stuff off terrain and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. The impact and knockback perks on a wall launcher are probably the most important function out of the wall launcher, right? So we're going to be able to send them different distances depending on how much knockback we put on our perks. So let's go over exactly like how far each is going to launch them. So a lot of this research is done by the Vocaloid Nyan. His channel will be in the description because he did a lot of testing into wall launchers and just pretty much any traps into the game. So go check him out. He does endurance builds and stuff like that too. So I'll have in my Discord, I'll have pinned his wall launcher reference sheet where he did a lot of testing and makes it pretty easy for you guys to have a visual reference. But we're going to go over exactly how far each wall launcher pushes. So this is going to be a 0 impact. So it's going to have no impact at all. This is going to push a husk that's on this right side all about to the beginning of the tile over next to it. For a 1 impact, it's going to push them about a little past halfway. Okay, so about right here. And you'll get a little bit of variation depending on if it's a huskling or a husky husk, because husky husks roll and husklings get pushed a little bit farther. But this is just the general advice for y'all. So we're going to go all the way over to 2 impact. So a 2 impact trap is the first one that's going to push them about 2 tiles over, so into this area right here. So you'll see that probably about a quarter of the way through, it'll get pushed into it. Alright, so then we're going to go to 3 impact, and that's going to push them all the way about halfway, a little bit past halfway, into the second tile. So 1, 2 into this second tile right here. We're going to go over to a 4 impact. 4 impact is going to be the first one that pushes them into a 3 tile distance. And that's going to be right to about the beginning of the 3rd tile, about right here. And then a 5 impact is going to push it just past halfway for this one. So right, as you guys can see, as you go up in the impact and knockback perks, they're going to push them at different distances. So depending on the situation, right, you wouldn't want a 5 impact wall launcher with no reload to be pushing husks into a timeout room that's like this, right? So that's where you'll see a lot of the wall launcher logic that we'll use in endurance builds and stuff like that. It's like, if we can get away with having more durability and getting the same functionality, and even sometimes a better functionality, you want to take that option. So when you're designing your tunnels and picking perks for your wall launchers, you want to take that into account, right? So if, say you have a timeout room and you have your 0 impact wall launcher right here, right? If you're only pushing them to right here, right, and you have a gas trap right here, they're going to take less damage here because they're going to just walk right out. So if you have a 1 impact and it pushes them all the way over here, they're going to spend longer under that gas trap and in this trapping area. So you have to take those things into account when you're coming up with your tunnel designs and stuff like that. Or for example, if you're pushing them off a cliff, you need to pick the appropriate impact and knockback. So this is super important, and this is one of the biggest things to take away from just building in general is wall launchers and their perks really matter. And I have, I think, 9 different wall launcher schematics. You guys don't necessarily need that much. And I'll give you guys some quick, just in general use type ones, like a 3 impact wall launcher should be on your list and a 0 impact one. But wall launchers are really important. The more you experiment with them, the better they become. A walleye is a really good trap just for stunning husks, right? That's its entire function, is it's going to go off and anything in that tile space in front of it is going to get stunned, right? So it's going to stun husks for 2.5 seconds or 3.2 seconds if you have effect duration on it. It's going to have a slow reload, but it's going to have such high impact and it's going to have a little bit of a knockback effect. So it's going to have high durability and it's going to hit multiple husks, but that high impact that we just said is great for staggering smashers, right? So you'll see this next to cliffs. It'll be like oh shit, I really need to get this smasher staggered off a cliff or like into a timeout box type of trap. It does contribute to the CC counter. But this has way higher impact than you'll see on anything like a wall launcher or a sound wall or anything like that. And that's what its main function is. And it costs 5 planks, 2 quartz, and 2 nuts and bolts to craft, so it's actually pretty cheap. As you guys will see in here, it's going to keep the husks stunned. They're going to get knocked back a little bit, but it'll keep them there for a few seconds. Let's talk about the wall light. So a wall light can be placed on 3 different things. It can be placed on a full wall, a windowed wall, and a double windowed wall, right? And this allows you to combo with like wall darts and stuff behind it. But the special thing I want to talk about with wall lights and by proxy sound walls and wall launchers is you can add these little walls, low walls, or you can make it like this edit right here. So something like this or something like this, right? And husks will have to walk along this way if they're pathing straight. What this allows us to do is if a smasher walks right here, you could potentially push them into the tile over because smashers don't get launched. You can potentially have them get pushed and they take 2 steps over here and they can take damage in like a timeout room or off like a ledge or something. So that's where wall lights really shine. And same with just stunning husks and keeping them here for a duration. I think it's 3.2 seconds with the effect duration. Next is a wall spike. So a wall spike is an interesting trap because in trap tunnels it's really not utilized all too much, right? So the whole thing about a wall spike is it does single target damage and it doesn't have a reload speed. But how does it activate? A husk has to actually hit the trap for it to activate, and that's where like you'll see a lot of us not using it because if a husk is hitting your builds, probably something's going wrong. But it does have really high durability, and it's probably my go-to choice for putting heals builds attached on a trap. So like I'll say I have like a wall launcher that a particular husk like every once in a while will hit. I'll put a heals builds attached on the back of it and we're all Gucci on the wall spike. But it doesn't contribute to the CC counter, which is cool, and it's really cheap. So it does 3 planks, 2 twine, 1 duct tape. In this video, you'll see it's actually pretty good in stonewood because the husks just die in 1 hit, but normally they're not going to die in 1 hit like that. But that's the damage and how it does that. Wall spikes can be placed on the same types of walls that wall dynamos can. So if a husk comes and hits on this wall spike, they're going to take damage. So you'll see that it's like you can put it on the low walls, you can put it on the half wall, the double window wall, the wall spike, and a regular wall. And so you can combo it with something like a wall dart behind it and stuff like that. In case you want to like have an assassin tunnel or something. Wall spikes are probably the most useless out of the regular, wall traps. But they still have their uses. Broadsides are another very meta trap, but they're used a lot of the times by a lot of inexperienced players that think they're good and use them particularly wrong. So what are broadsides? Broadsides are burst damage AoE trap, and they have a really slow reload. So they're going to have a high durability, but they're going to have 5 balls that come out of the broadside when they shoot off. Each of those balls will do the specified damage of the broadside, and they're going to bounce around and off of things. So each ball that hits it is going to apply damage. So these balls will get fired around a 6 tile distance, and they'll pierce husks, and they will bounce off of things. So this does contribute to the CC counter, and it is 7 planks to craft, 2 mineral powder, and 2 mechanical parts. And I'll show you guys the best ways to utilize these because I see a lot of people utilizing them wrong. But in the video, you can see that the balls will bounce around, and it'll kill everything that's basically in that 1 tile radius, just because they're so strong and they apply a lot of damage. Broadsides are an interesting trap because you can't really pair them too well with others, but they work really, really well with each other, right? So we have a bunch of broadsides right here, and facing them across from each other is really, really, really useful. So as I mentioned, broadsides can only go around 6 tiles. They shoot out and they'll go about 6 tiles distance. So putting them closer together, you're going to get more damage out of them. So what do I mean by that? So say we have this broadside, it shoots out, it goes 6 tiles worth of damage, so it's going to go 1 tile, 2 tile, 3 tile, and it's going to keep going back and forth 6 different times. So it's going to hit a husk right here. One of those 5 balls are going to keep getting hitting husks that are in this tile. Now it's going to be dependent on it's going to be variable depending on where the husk is in this tile, as broadsides are super complex. The game doesn't make you understand them very easily, or it doesn't allow you to understand them very easily. But you can get a lot of damage off with broadsides next to each other. So they work well in pairs like this because they'll bounce back and forth. If we go to right here with a 2 tile gap, you'll see that it'll go 2 tiles, 4 tiles, and 6 tiles. So it'll get 3 different bounces. So it'll have 3 different opportunities to hit husks. And as you see, well, as they will expand it out, it'll go over 1. And then it'll roll back casually and it'll have 2 opportunities. So as you have put broadsides closer together, they're going to do more damage and they're going to be a better fit, right? So broadsides out in the open like this aren't necessarily that great. But broadsides close together are. The sound wall is an important trap that used to be a little bit more important than it used to before the 5 crowd control nerf to the game. But basically, if you guys didn't know, after 5 crowd control hits on a husk, so for example, if a sound wall makes a husk dance, that's going to be a crowd control. Same with like if a wall launcher launches and stuff like that. Sound walls used to be really good for jail building. Now you don't really need to jail build with traps and stuff like that, but let's not get into that. But husks are going to dance whenever they get hit by a sound wall. Sploders, as a thing towards this, if a sploder dances, he drops his propane tank. So this is where you're going to see a lot of people use sound walls and why they use so many sound walls. Because a propane husk that doesn't have their tank isn't exploding in your tunnel, which is really, really solid for endurance and things like that. So it's going to have high durability, but those uses can go pretty quickly. The dance isn't impact based, which is really clutch on regular husks, but it is on the stun on smashers. It does contribute to the crowd control counter, and it's 1 quartz to craft, 3 mechanical parts, and 7 rough ore. So it did get really a lot cheaper since the buff to crafting materials. But as you guys can see, it'll just make husk dance whenever the husks are next to it and it goes off. Simple enough. So now that we've discussed all of the traps, let's put them into some categories so you guys can reference them really quick. So the wall traps that are going to have crowd control are going to be a wall dynamo, wall launcher, wall light, broadsides, and sound walls. The traps that aren't going to have crowd control are going to be the wall darts and the wall spikes. We're going to break it down to damage traps now, and wall darts are going to have single target burst damage. Wall dynamos are going to have burst AoE single tile damage. Wall spikes are going to have low single target damage when they hit it. And broadsides are going to have piercing, bouncing projectiles. The utility traps out of the wall traps are going to be some of the most important utility traps of the game. And they're going to be a wall launcher, which is going to, of course, launch them. A wall light, which is going to stun them, and a sound wall, which is going to have a dance effect on them. And all of these are really, really important traps. To show off the wall traps a little bit more and to introduce you to them, all the traps that we introduced are in this tunnel. I threw this together. It's not necessarily the best tunnel in the world, and it's by far not efficient. But it'll use every single trap, and it'll show you guys what they do all together. So we have a sound wall right here. This will make them dance. We have a wall launcher. We have a wall dart. We have a wall light, a wall dynamo, and a broadside. These are all the traps that we went over today, and you guys will get to see them in action. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned something. If you guys haven't already, go follow my social medias and stuff like that. Use the creator code. You guys know what's up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys learned something. Peace.